Dogumentary TV, producing the best breed documentaries on YouTube.
My name's Brad Anderson with bradanderson.org. I'm a big dog lover, especially like rare breeds. I'm a published member of PADS, the Primitive and Aboriginal Dogs Breed Society. We just purchased this house here in Carson, New Mexico. It's 20 acres of land. We wanted this property because it's pretty secluded and it's a large piece of property. The more private, the more remote, and the more land we have, the better. So that's why we chose this property. My wife and I met in Georgia. We've been together for more than 20 years. When I started becoming interested in dogs, then she also enjoyed the interest. And so the Japanese dogs and our preservation with the Japanese dogs, for us, it was a hobby that we did together. I started getting more interested in the larger breeds, and my focus shifted more towards the landrace breeds and the larger breeds, while my wife stayed interested in the Japanese breeds. We have a great life. What makes it great is the fact that I get to work from home in the middle of nowhere and enjoy all these rare breeds. And I'm definitely not a rich man, but I make a decent enough income to where we can afford to have all these dogs and do the things we do. And then I have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful wife, that both also appreciate living the way we live. But it's not without stress. Owning all these dogs, it's expensive. That puts stress on our life. It's worth it in the long run for us to do it though, because we're helping the breeds we love in a way that we like to help. I do think it's a positive thing that my daughter gets to grow up around these dogs. Owning aggressive dogs, it is a liability and it's dangerous. And, we had to be very regimented with our daughter early on to make sure that she was kept safe. Not to imply that any of our dogs were dangerous towards her, but dogs make mistakes just like people make mistakes. The biggest regret that I have with the dogs is the fact that Jen and myself and Chase have not gone on a vacation together in a really long time, because it's hard to find people that will take care of, aggressive dogs. So I'd say we're in a perpetual state of trying to reduce our dog count without throwing the work that we've done, without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. That's a frustrating thing, but I hope that we can get to a point where we have the infrastructure in place and the contacts that we need, where we can, travel the world together. Our core focus is and will always be our Japanese breeds, especially the Chiken. We started a nonprofit effort to reintegrate the North American population with the Japanese population. Before we started our work, there was 11 dogs that were imported in the 90s for the Chiken breed. So I made it my focus to do that. And in order to do that, I had to become and wanted to become a Chiken Aigokai member. The Chiken Aigokai is the Japanese Preservation Society for the Chiken. It's existed for about 90 years. I'm actually the first member of that organization that doesn't reside in Japan and isn't Japanese. And then I started working with the Kishu as well. I was drawn to the Kishu Ken because they're a serious hunting breed. I believe I was the first to import the Shikoku Kishu Ken to America, which is the colored Kishu Ken. Most Kishu Ken are white, but the colored Kishu are acceptable within the Nippo standard. They're just not as popular. That then kind of moved on to the Tosa. I did the same thing. I mean, my interest in the Tosa Inu was purely curiosity. I wanted one from Japan, and I wanted one from a fighting kennel. I wanted, quote unquote, the real Tosa. I imported Sakura, my female. She ended up being a really beautiful, great example of the breed, and so that made me think, hey, maybe I could help the Tosa too. I have 2 kennels. One is Yamabushi Kennel, and that's our Chiken kennel. That's our Chiken Aigokai registered kennel. And then we have Hakuzan Kennel, which is our Nippo registered kennel, which we do the Kishu Ken through and the Tosa Inu through. The Japanese breeds that I have is, I still have my old Shiba Inu Kaya, one of our first dogs. She's 15 years old now. And then I have Shikoku, that's Loa, and Kaiju will be coming back eventually as well. Then we have our Kishu Ken, and our Chiken, and our Tosa Inu. We got into the livestock guardian dogs because the first time we lived in Taos, we had a little bit of a predator problem with eagles and hawks and coyotes. That's what got me into the Caucasian ovcharka. They were a dog that I felt fit, the mold well. Slowly over time though, we started adding livestock, and my interest grew in the LGD breeds. I've had Congos. I have Central Asians now. I still have a Caucasian. I have Gomper. I have a Sarabi dog. Those are all LGD breeds. I own several Cane Corso. I moved out of that breed, so I got my first Borbal. The livestock guardians that I prefer are the landrace breeds. Specifically, the Central Asian Shepherd is. I have a fascination with fighting dogs. I actually don't like dog fighting, and I actually don't like dog aggression. I actually hate dog aggression, which I guess seems really counterintuitive to me owning so many fighting dogs. I think the reason why I'm interested in them is the hype. I own Tosa Inu, obviously, is the Japanese fighting dog. As far as, my impression goes with them, they're big, goofy dogs. The size of a Japanese Tosa is, typically 100 to 150 pounds or so. I'd say that's a large Tosa in Japan. My American Pit Bull Terrier Gumbo is from Boudreaux lines. He's a dog with game bred lines behind him. I also have, I guess you can consider the Central Asians a fighting breed to some extent. I've owned one that was definitely from fighting lines. I own a lot of hunting breeds as well. My entry into true hunting breeds was the West Siberian Laika. And, I guess all of the Japanese breeds are hunting breeds, but I don't use them for hunting. The ones that I've used for hunting are the West Siberian Laika. And then that led me to become more interested in some of the other hunting breeds, specifically the Dogo. I own some of them as well for hunting, and I use them as kind of backup for hunting my hunting lion with my Laika. The most important things in my life right now are my family, my daughter, by far. My preservation efforts with the dogs and caring for our animals and letting my daughter learn how to care for animals and love animals is very important to us as well. So moving forward with my preservation efforts and everything, I'm going to start. I feel like I've experienced enough breeds. I'm actually going to start focusing less on acquiring various different breeds and focusing more effort back on my Japanese breeds. And I'm going to start looking at smaller dogs that can fill the roles that I need in hunting, so that I can retire some of my larger dogs, which is very sad for me because I love all my dogs. But something that you have to understand about Jen and myself, we love our dogs, but we also realize when you have a lot of dogs, you can't give them the individual care and love that they deserve. That's why we retire our females so early and our males so early, and that's why we're in this perpetual state of trying to find good homes for dogs that we're retiring, because we want those dogs to go on and have that life that they're supposed to have. We don't want to feel like we're neglecting them. So moving forward, I'm hoping to reduce our numbers and maybe focus, maybe, not have quite so broad of a focus, narrow it down to maybe the Central Asians, our Japanese dogs, and my Karelian bear dog. This is Brett Anderson. You can follow my work at brettanderson.org. You can send me a message if you have questions or opinions or comments. Thanks for watching.